Amanda Martin and I'm an MP down in Portsmouth. And just want to say thank you for sharing your experiences. I want to just ask a couple of questions around that, and just if you can elaborate further. The first one is, and I think some of you have touched on this already, but was the SEND support you received right for you? If not, what more could have been done to get it right? And I think a second part, because you might want to just talk about this together, is if there were delays in getting that support, whether it was right or wrong, what impact did that have on you while you waited? So was it the right support? If it wasn't, what could have been done better? And if it was delayed, how did that impact on you? Should we start with you, Maddie, this time?
I, as I've sort of briefly explained, really didn't have much support until I was outside of mainstream education, and that was something that my parents and I had to fight for quite drastically to be able to get me that help and for me to be able to pass my exams. I do believe that, especially from how vocal I was about my experiences and how much I was struggling when I was younger, the issues that I was having could have been noticed earlier. And I think that if they had, I possibly would have gotten much more support, and I may have been able to have stayed in mainstream education. However, I don't regret the choices that I made leaving, because I think that was right for the time, and I don't think that I would be in this room today if it wasn't for that experience. I would wish that, with these circumstances in mind, the teachers that I had who were able to support me within smaller classroom settings, like primary school environments where we had about 10 kids in a class, would have had the resources within the school environment to be able to have listened to me when I was struggling, and that when my mum would have brought up the fact that I was struggling to make it into school, complaining of being sick, not wanting to go into school and wanting to be homeschooled from about the age of 6, 7 years old, that they had been able to listen and empathize and recognize that it wasn't a child messing around, it was someone who was really, really struggling. And I think if I'd had a different experience with the primary school environment, my entire life would have been different.
Thank you. Sarah, do you want to wait for the bell when I stop? It'll ring again, won't it?
It will go again in a minute, yeah. It'll be like 3 minutes, so carry on and then, yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
So for me, it's like, hang on, would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, so it was, do you think the right support, you received the right support? What could have been done to make it right if not? And if that support was delayed, what was that impact on you?
I think, for me, all of my teachers throughout my whole education experience have been brilliant and always understanding, because I've had to spend a lot of time, I was in and out of hospital all throughout my childhood and things like that. The support at my primary school, I would say, was really good, and they all understood and things like that. Secondary school, not so much, because I wasn't getting the right support that I needed, and I had to rely on my friends a lot to help me, and I felt quite, I don't want to say embarrassed by having to ask my friends to help me, because I was like, I just want to be able to spend time with them as friends and not as my TAs or support workers. And it's just, and again, sixth form, the support was really good and everyone understood, TAs and teachers alike. And same at university, my support workers have been really good, as have my lecturers. And yes, there have been a few support issues that I've had, including my sight guide and note taker leaving a few times, and there have sometimes been delays in when they've managed to find someone. For example, last term there was a period of 3 weeks, I think it was, where I was without anyone, and my friends all had to come to my lectures and help me to take notes and things like that. And I just feel so self-conscious about asking people to help me in things, because I want to try and be as independent as I can, but I know sometimes it's going to be a difficult struggle and stuff like that. And throughout primary school, secondary school, and even uni now, I would say, like, I felt a bit, I don't want to say self-conscious as well, but also a bit embarrassed, because my sixth form, I had 2 friends who were also visually impaired, and the 3 of us all had long canes and stuff like that. But at primary school, secondary school and uni, I haven't seen many, or if any, students with a visual impairment. And secondary school especially, I was quite, I don't want to say reluctant to use my cane and stuff, but I just felt so that I was the only one, and I don't want to say I felt left out, but that's sometimes what it felt like. And at uni, I mean, everyone, because I lost my eyesight when I was in the middle of sixth form, so people there knew me with sight and without it. So, like, I've had a long cane for, I think, 4 years, I think. I might be wrong about that, but like, I don't feel as self-conscious using it at uni as I have done elsewhere, because everyone at uni has known me without eyesight, and okay, not totally without it, but it's just basically sometimes my friends have had to act as my TAs or support workers, and it's just not, like, that doesn't feel right to me, because I just want to be able to spend time with them as friends and not as support workers. And at secondary school, a lot of the time my teachers have to double up as the teaching assistant for there not being the support when I was in class, or there being, for example, 1 TA to 5 students, and it was just things like that, really, that sometimes the support was good and it was there, and other times it was not so good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much, Sarah. Katie?
I think overall my sense of support, it's all right now, but it wasn't for quite a while. When I started struggling in year 6 of primary school, I wasn't diagnosed with anything, but my parents did manage to agree some accommodations with the head teacher, but those were then ignored by my classroom teacher. She just decided not to listen. And then I just kept on struggling, dropped out a lot, and then my mental health was really bad moving into secondary school, but there wasn't any transition support because I still wasn't diagnosed with autism by then. I think my parents got 1 extra meeting with the secondary school people, but that was it. I was kind of just thrown in the deep end, so to speak. And then when I started struggling at secondary school, I did get my autism diagnosis and did get an EHCP then. So the support got a bit better, but I was still unable to cope. My support right now is education other than at school, and that has worked really well for me because I just can't handle being at school at all. In terms of delays in support, the main delays are just waiting for diagnosis times, and then I've had many changes to my EHCP and many different EHCPs because I was moving provision a lot because no one could work out why I couldn't go to school. So every time you need to get a change with your local authority to the EHCP, you're stuck waiting for such a long time because there's always this back and forth and they don't listen to you, and there's always communication delays, and it just takes such a long time. Even if you are in crisis right now, there's nothing you can do, you're just stuck waiting, and that takes such a big toll on families because you're having to advocate for yourself constantly. Yeah, I think that's...
Thank you, that's really helpful, Katie.